A poor man showed up at a lavish wedding. Guests laughed at his clothes. But when the bride suddenly stopped the music and walked straight toward him, the entire room froze. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to grab your cup of tea or coffee, because this story will stay with you long after the last word. Marcus Red stood at the edge of the dance floor, one hand gripping a lukewarm glass of punch, the other resting nervously inside the pocket of his off-the-rack blazer. The wedding venue was breathtaking. White roses cascading from crystal chandeliers, a string quartet playing something delicate and refined, and servers gliding between clusters of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. He shifted uncomfortably in his scuffed dress shoes. They pinched his toes a half size too small, but he'd made them work. He had to. His eyes swept the room, scanning past the ornate centerpieces and polished smiles until they landed on her. Emma, his daughter, his only child, the bride. She was radiant in her gown, classic and understated, her dark hair swept into a bun with loose curls framing her soft face. She was laughing politely with a group of guests, her hand resting gently on the arm of Andrew Bellington, her new husband. Marcus forced a smile. She looked happy. That was all that mattered. He wasn't supposed to be here, not really. The invitation had come late, and it wasn't even addressed properly. Guest of bride scrawled in awkward handwriting across the envelope. He knew what that meant. A last-minute obligation. A reluctant gesture. Still, he came. He always came when it mattered. Across the room, voices rose in snide amusement. Is that him? One woman whispered, her champagne flute trembling with mirth. The mechanic. A burst of laughter followed. Oh God, yes, another said, eyes narrowing. I thought he was one of the waitstaff. Marcus turned his head, pretending not to hear, but their words settled into his shoulders like bricks. He knew these people, at least their type. Wealthy, polished, and trained from birth to spot the outsider in a room. The Bellingsworths, the Kendalls, the Holloways, all family by blood or marriage now. He didn't belong here, not by their standards. He wasn't Ivy League. He didn't own a yacht. His fingers were calloused, his palms lined with engine grease that no amount of scrubbing could erase. But he was Emma's father, and that used to be enough. A flash of memory hit him. Emma at 6, arms wrapped around his neck after her first day of school. I love you more than all the stars, Daddy. He swallowed hard and looked away. That was a long time ago. Before private schools and scholarship programs and distant holidays. Before Andrew. Marcus, Marcus. The voice made him flinch slightly. Standing beside him was Victoria Bellington, Andrew's mother. Her dress shimmered like moonlight, her posture impossibly regal. She looked at him like one might study a strange bug on the windshield. Lovely ceremony, he said, clearing his throat. She replied, not bothering to mask her disdain. It's a miracle the florist found enough white peonies at such short notice. You know how important timing is for weddings? He nodded. It all came together beautifully. She sipped her wine, then gave him a smile so tight it could have cracked glass. Emma's done well for herself. Andrew has a promising future. His father has already begun grooming him for the family firm. I'm proud of her, Marcus said softly. She's very different now, isn't she? Victoria mused aloud. From what she came from, he opened his mouth, but nothing came. A slow clapping sound interrupted the moment. The best man took the mic, tapping it twice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for speeches. Polite applause followed. Victoria turned back to Marcus with an arched brow. I'm sure you've prepared something touching. Just keep it brief. You know how fragile the mood can be. And with that, she glided away like a swan on a glassy lake. Marcus exhaled, then reached into his inside pocket. The paper was folded neatly, though the edges had worn soft from his nervous fingers. It wasn't fancy. No clever metaphors. Just words from a father to a daughter. The speeches began. Laughter, stories, toasts. Then someone called his name. He stepped up to the mic. The ballroom fell unusually quiet. Some smiled politely. Others watched like they were waiting for a train wreck. He looked at Emma, seated next to her husband. She smiled at him faintly but didn't move. Marcus unfolded his paper. His hand shook slightly. "I won't take long," he began, his voice rough but steady. "I know I don't look like I belong in a place like this. Truth is, I probably don't. I'm not rich. I've spent most of my life fixing engines and working double shifts. There were years where Christmas meant a borrowed tree and a gift from the clearance bin. A few chuckles, nervous ones. But I raised a girl who could walk into any room and shine. A girl who worked harder than anyone I've ever known. A girl who once fell asleep on a pile of textbooks because she didn't want to miss her scholarship deadlines. I didn't give her everything, but I gave her all I had." He paused, and now she's here, starting a new chapter. "Emma, you've always made me proud, even when I didn't have the words to say it." He swallowed. "I hope you know how much I love you. That will never change." There was silence, a long one. He folded the paper, nodded once and walked off the stage. No applause, just quiet. He returned to his corner by the wall. Someone snickered. Another murmured, "Well, that was awkward." He stood there for a while, letting the music wash over him like rain on tin. Then he heard it, a whisper, his name. "Marcus." He turned. It was Emma. She was walking toward him. Alone. Eyes locked on his. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, echoing louder with each step. And behind her, the entire room fell completely still. Emma stopped in front of him, her wedding dress catching the soft golden light from the chandeliers overhead. Her eyes were wet but steady. Marcus could see the hesitation flicker for half a second before she reached up and placed her hand gently on his chest. "Can we talk?" she asked. Marcus nodded, heart thudding. They stepped outside onto the terrace. Beyond the stone balustrade, the hills rolled into the horizon, dotted with vineyards and flickering lanterns. The night air was cool, scented faintly with lavender and old earth. Emma folded her arms across her chest. "I wanted to say thank you." Marcus frowned. "For what?" "For coming." "For Cole." "For the speech." "For everything." He gave a soft laugh, bitter at the edges. Didn't seem like the crowd appreciated it. Her lips twitched. "They don't matter." "You do." That stopped him. She looked out over the vineyard. "You remember that old Buick you used to drive me to school in? The blue one with the broken door handle?" "Had to get in through the passenger side every morning," Marcus said with a smirk. "Yeah," she said. "I hated that car." His smile faded. "But," she added quickly, "I didn't hate you. I was just embarrassed at everything. At how different we were from the other families. How I couldn't invite friends over because our apartment was too small. How your hands were always stained with grease." He nodded slowly, looking down at those same hands. "I know." She turned to him fully. "I never told you how hard it was." Pretending I wasn't ashamed. A long silence stretched between them. "I tried to be everything they wanted," she whispered. "Polished, proper, smart. I changed my voice, my clothes, even how I laughed." Marcus's voice was low. "And what did it cost you?" Her eyes filled again, but she blinked the tears away. "Too much. But I kept telling myself it was worth it. For the life I wanted. The security, the respect. And now?" he asked. She looked at him, really looked at him. "Now I'm not so sure." Behind them, the music swelled again. Applause, toasts, a world spinning without them. "Andrew's family," she said carefully. "They've always made me feel like I won a prize, but never like I belonged." Marcus exhaled through his nose. "They see me as a cautionary tale." "Maybe," she said, "but they forget what I remember. The nights you skipped dinner so I could eat. The winter you worked outside until your hands bled just to pay the heating bill. The fact that I never once doubted you'd show up for me, even when I pushed you away." He shook his head. "Emma, I didn't come to ruin your wedding. I know this is your life now. I just wanted to be here for it." She took his hand, rough and weathered against her perfectly manicured fingers. "You didn't ruin anything," she said. "You reminded me where I came from." A sharp voice interrupted them. There you are. Victoria Bellington stood in the doorway, face tight with disapproval. She looked at Marcus like he'd dragged mud across the marble floor. Emma turned, jaw tightening. We were just talking, she said. Victoria's eyes flicked to their joined hands. Yes, well, perhaps now isn't the time for working-class reunions. The cake is about to be served. I'll be in shortly, Emma said. Victoria hesitated, then narrowed her eyes at Marcus. You've said your piece. Perhaps it's time you stepped aside. Emma's posture straightened. That's enough. The older woman blinked. You don't get to speak to my father that way? Emma continued, her voice calm but sharp as ice. Not now. Not ever. Victoria's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She turned on her heel and disappeared back into the ballroom. Emma looked back at Marcus. They've never had to fight for anything in their lives. But you did. Every single day. I didn't always get it right, he said quietly. But you stayed, she said. That matters more. Marcus glanced toward the ballroom. You should get back inside. They'll be wondering. Emma stepped closer. Can I ask you something? Of course. If I fall, she whispered, if this marriage breaks down, would you be disappointed in me? He looked into her eyes. Never. I'd just be there to catch you. A long breath left her lungs. Her face softened. From inside, music changed. The first notes of the father-daughter dance floated through the air. Emma looked toward the door, then back to him. Would you dance with me? Marcus hesitated. You sure? I've never been more sure. She held out her hand. He took it. Together, they stepped back into the ballroom. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Andrew's family stared in disbelief. The DJ, caught off guard, stammered into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, the bride and her father. The music resumed. Marcus placed one hand at her back, the other holding hers. They began to move slowly at first. He was stiff, uncertain, but she guided him gently. People watched, some in confusion, some with contempt. But a few, just a few, smiled. As the song reached its chorus, Victoria whispered something into Andrew's ear. His eyes widened. He stood abruptly. Then he walked toward the dance floor, straight toward them. Andrew reached the edge of the dance floor, jaw clenched, his tailored suit crisp and perfect. Everything about him carefully constructed, like the world he came from. He stopped just a few steps away, his eyes locked on Emma and Marcus. The room had gone quieter, though the music still played. Emma, he said tightly, can we talk? She didn't stop dancing. In a minute. This isn't the time, he said, forcing a smile that never reached his eyes. You're making a scene. Marcus started to pull back, but Emma held onto his hand firmly. No, I'm not making a scene. I'm dancing with my father. Andrew's gaze flicked to Marcus. I thought we agreed. Emma cut him off. No, you decided. You made it clear how embarrassed you were to have him here. That's not fair, isn't it? She asked. You didn't even say hello to him tonight. You didn't thank him during the speeches. You didn't even mention him in your vows. Andrew's smile was strained. We've talked about this. Your father represents a life you worked hard to rise above. I thought you understood that. I did, Emma said softly. For too long. Andrew took a step closer. Can we not do this right now? Emma looked at him. Really looked at him, as if seeing something clearly for the first time. You know, she said, when I was little, my dad used to fix this old toaster we had. It would break every few weeks, and he'd always open it up and get it working again. I once asked him why he didn't just throw it away and buy a new one. Marcus was still listening. Emma's voice remained calm. He told me, if something still works deep down, you don't throw it out. You fix it. You fight for it. Andrew shifted uncomfortably. Emma, she looked around the room. This wedding, this world, it's porcelain, pretty, fragile. But it cracks too easy, and all of you pretend nothing's wrong until it shatters. Victoria approached from the far end of the room, her heels sharp against the marble, expression unreadable. Emma, she said coolly, your guests are starting to feel uncomfortable. Then they're welcome to leave, Emma said without blinking. A hush fell. Several guests exchanged glances. Andrew lowered his voice, eyes narrowing. Do you have any idea how bad this looks? Emma turned to him. I didn't marry you to impress a room full of strangers. I married you because I thought you'd understand who I am. And what? This is who you are, Andrew sneered. The girl from a grease-stained garage and dollar store Christmases? Marcus flinched. Emma straightened. Yes. And I'm proud of that girl. Someone gasped. Victoria's hand flew to her chest. Andrew glanced around, seeing the tide shift. You're emotional. This day is overwhelming. Emma reached for the microphone on the DJ stand. She stood in front of the crowd, her voice steady and clear. I want to thank everyone for coming, truly. But I need to say something, and I won't pretend anymore. She took a breath. My father raised me alone. We didn't have money. We didn't have vacations or design or anything, but we had love and effort and honesty. He taught me to work for everything I have. He showed up at every school play, even when he came straight from a shift that nearly killed him. He made me believe I was capable of more. And somehow, I forgot that. Marcus watched her, eyes glassy. I thought becoming someone new would protect me, that if I just acted the part, I'd be accepted. But the more I tried to erase where I came from, the more I lost who I was. Silence. I'm not ashamed anymore. Then she turned toward Marcus. I love you, Dad. He blinked hard. I love you too, baby girl. The crowd remained frozen, but someone near the back began to clap. Then another, and then, slowly, more joined in. It wasn't thunderous applause, but it was honest. Victoria's face was stone. Andrew stared like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. Emma handed the mic back to the DJ, then walked straight to Marcus. Let's get some air, she said. They stepped out again into the night. The stars had come out fully now, quiet and ancient above the hills. Marcus exhaled slowly. You didn't have to do that. I did, she replied. For me? They stood together in silence for a long time. Finally, Marcus asked, What happens now? She hesitated. I don't know. Then a voice came from behind. Andrew, his tone was quieter now. Emma, we should talk. In private. She turned unreadable. Why? He looked at her, less certain than he'd ever been. Because I don't want to lose you. And I think I already might be. Marcus took a small step back, giving them space. But he didn't go far. He couldn't. Not now. Emma looked at Andrew, then over her shoulder at her father. And then, slowly, she began to speak, words that would change everything. Emma's voice was soft but clear. I'm not walking back into that ballroom to pretend nothing happened. Andrew took a cautious step forward, adjusting the cuff of his sleeve like he could straighten the moment into submission. No one's asking you to pretend. I just think we should talk. Away from all this? This is the talk, Andrew, she replied. Right here, right now, his jaw tensed. So you want to humiliate me in front of my family? On our wedding night? No, Emma said. I just want to stop hiding. Behind them, the terrace door opened. Victoria stepped out again, her icy composure starting to crack. This is absurd, she snapped. We are hosting the most important people in the city right now, and you're out here causing a spectacle. Emma didn't even flinch. You've spent the last 3 years trying to change me, Victoria. Dress me up, coach my voice, rewrite my past. You never wanted a daughter-in-law. You wanted a porcelain doll to fit the shelf. That's not true, Victoria said quickly. We gave you everything. A future, a name, respect. A mame, respect, a wadiuman. Wa, so stays you novs you uso. Shu you muiwan. Marcus finally spoke. She had a name long before she met any of you. Victoria turned on him. With all due respect, Mr. Reed, you should be grateful she ever made it out of your... Enough, Emma said sharply. The silence that followed was colder than the night air. Victoria blinked, lips parting slightly in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to her like that, certainly not someone beneath her. Emma stepped closer to Andrew. I need to know something. If I stopped fitting in with your family, if I stopped playing the part, Would you still want me? Andrew hesitated, a fraction too long. Then I want us to work, but tonight, this isn't how grown-ups handle things. A chill passed through her, so that's your answer. I didn't say that, he replied, stepping toward her again. But if you think I'm going to let you blow up our wedding just because your father needed a moment in the spotlight. Marcus turned his back then. He couldn't listen to any more. Emma's eyes were now steel. Don't you dare blame him for what I needed to say? Andrew held up his hands. I'm trying here, but you can't change the rules on the day we start our life together. Maybe the rules were wrong, she said. The wind picked up, rustling the hanging lights along the terrace. From inside, the music shifted to another soft waltz, like nothing outside had ruptured. Victoria's voice was tight. Emma, come back inside. Apologize to the guests. Have your first dance with your husband. We can fix this. Emma shook her head. No, we can't. Because this isn't broken glass, it's a cracked foundation. And I'm not going to build the rest of my life on it. Andrew's face fell. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious, she said. And I'm done pretending this marriage is something it's not. Victoria stepped forward quickly, but Marcus instinctively moved in front of his daughter. You will not do this. Victoria hissed. Do you have any idea what this will do to your reputation? I don't care anymore, Emma whispered. Victoria's voice rose, sharp and panicked. You can't walk away from this. You said I do. You signed your name? We have guests? A future? A family? Emma stood tall, her voice unwavering. I already have a family. She turned to Marcus, and her eyes filled. If you'll still have me. I want to come home for a while. He didn't speak. He just nodded, pulling her into a fierce, trembling hug. Andrew stood frozen, too stunned to speak. Victoria backed away slowly, as if witnessing something sacrilegious. Emma pulled back from her father and looked at Andrew one last time. I loved you, Andrew. I really did. But I won't sacrifice myself to keep your family's illusions alive. I want something real, even if it means starting over. She turned toward the stairs. Her heels clicked with purpose now. Marcus followed, silent, protective, proud. They reached the bottom of the terrace steps. Marcus opened the car door for her, the same aging pickup truck he'd driven for years. I never thought I'd see this truck again, Emma said with a soft, sad smile. I never thought you'd sit in it, wearing a wedding dress, Marcus replied. She climbed in. He shut the door gently behind her. As he walked around to the driver's side, voices erupted back at the terrace. Andrew was shouting, Victoria's voice cut through like broken glass. And then, someone was following, a figure in a navy suit sprinting down the lawn toward them. Marcus froze, one hand on the door. Emma turned. Is that Andrew? Running? Coming straight for the truck? Andrew reached the truck just as Marcus opened the driver's door. His polished shoes skidded slightly on the dew-slick grass, but he didn't stop. Emma, he shouted, breath ragged. Please wait. She leaned out the open passenger window. Her veil had come loose, fluttering in the wind like a torn ribbon. Her eyes, clear and unblinking, met his. I need to talk to you alone, he said, glancing at Marcus. Marcus hesitated, gaze fixed on Andrew with silent warning. Then he stepped away from the truck and leaned against the hood, folding his arms. He wouldn't go far, not now. Andrew stepped to the window, searching her face. This is insane. You can't just leave. Emma rested her arms on the doorframe. I'm not leaving. I'm choosing. He pressed his hand to his forehead. You're making a mistake. We had a plan. No, she said softly. You had a plan. I just kept trying to fit into it. Andrew's voice cracked. I love you. She looked at him for a long moment. Then why did you spend our entire relationship trying to change me? I wasn't trying to change you, he said quickly. I was trying to help you. Help us. Fit into a world that would give us everything. Emma shook her head. But I never wanted that world if it meant cutting out the people who matter. If it meant cutting out me? His expression faltered. I never told you about the night my dad sold his truck so I could fly to New York for my scholarship interview, she continued. He walked to work for 3 weeks. Never told me until years later. She glanced toward Marcus, standing silently under the stars. That's love, Andrew. Quiet, invisible sacrifice. Not just smiling for photographs or managing appearances. Andrew's shoulders slumped. So that's it. You're throwing everything away for nostalgia. No, she said. I'm letting go of the lie. Her voice caught then, just slightly. I loved you, and I hoped you could love all of me, but you only ever loved the version that fit your mold. Andrew stepped back from the truck, his eyes shining with disbelief. And him, the man who showed up in a $40 jacket and embarrassed you in front of everyone? He's the one who gets your loyalty. Emma didn't hesitate. He earned it every day of my life. Andrew's mouth opened, but no words came. She looked at him one last time. I hope someday you understand what it means to love someone without trying to control them. She reached for the seatbelt. The click of it locking into place echoed in the stillness. Andrew stood there, stunned and silent, as Marcus walked back to the driver's side and slid in behind the wheel. They didn't need to say anything. Marcus turned the key. The engine roared to life. Old, imperfect, but reliable. As the truck began to roll forward, Emma looked back once through the side mirror. Andrew stood in the middle of the lawn, lost in a sea of rose petals and fairy lights, watching the woman who no longer belonged to his world. The gravel crunched beneath the tires as they pulled out of the vineyard driveway. Inside the cab, Emma sat quietly for a while, her wedding dress bunched around her knees, makeup smudged but eyes clear. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. The silence between them was heavy but not uncomfortable. Dad, she said eventually. Yeah. Is it okay that I don't know what happens next? He gave a small smile. Sweetheart, nobody ever does. That's how you know it's real. She turned to the window, her reflection soft and unfamiliar. She was still in her dress, but the illusion had fallen away. And somehow, she felt more like herself than she had in years. Are you hungry? Marcus asked after a while. She looked over, surprised. There's a diner still open down on Fulton. Chicken fried steak and the best pie in the county? Haven't been there since you left for college. She smiled. Sounds perfect. He glanced over at her. They might stare a little. Not every day they see a bride in a pickup eating pie at midnight. She laughed for the first time that night. Let them stare. The truck rumbled on beneath the stars, winding down an empty road, leaving behind silk and champagne and shallow applause. Toward something real, something unknown, and maybe, finally, home.